one of the things too I want to talk about is the smaller scenes. Now, there's some scenes like with the Spalding, which evokes John Berryman's The Ball poem,
Yeah.
as well as the poem by year. I forget the title, um, which do a scene with Dino when he loses a Spalding.
Yeah.
And then the interesting twist there is that, unlike the poem, which is just a poem about loss, although it's loss from someone looking backward, is Dino gives his friend his own Spalding, or the super sponge kind of
Yeah.
Spalding, and it evokes a loss there too. Although later on we see a scene that connects Dino with the same character when he gets the ball back, and that's an interesting way of both showing how loss is how you lose something and then you gain it back, but it also gives a character into them as well as getting allusion from different poems. And you have many scenes like that, many sentences that have these little allusions and little treats for the reader. Like there's a reference to Congolian Footfalls, which is one of your dream poems, that is also mentioned in one of the passages. So talk about some of these small scenes, and they're littered throughout the book, so we can't get to all of them. But
Well, the reason I did that particular Dino scene was Dino, because he's the youngest of the three main brothers that's dealt with, has the least happen to him. He's not a drug addict. He's not a weakling. He's not a psychopath. He's not trying to enter the mob. He's just a young kid. I think Dino goes from about the age of 8 to 12 in the book, or maybe 10, 9 to 13, something like
and then
that.
you later see him as an adult.
Yeah, and but in the main context of the book, he's the youngest of the brothers, and that I wanted to have the friend because the friend that scene takes place at night when the friend, a kid his age, is going to work at night, and so I wanted to give a sense of the poverty here that even in the 1970s there are kids working at a young age, as I did, um, and he first hears the kid outside his window, and he goes down to meet him. Later on, we get another. I think it's one full chapter I devote to this wacky girl and her two aunts, which is again based on real people that I knew. And Dino is in that scene, looking into the window, talking to the girl. And I think, and it's been a number of years now since I wrote the book, but I forget what actually happens in that chapter. But that's a chapter to give the background, just like we got the background character of the possible pedophile out there, just like we have the background character starts out as a bully, but then Aldo beats up, and then he's thrown off one of the warehouse roofs at the end of the book, and they don't know if they're dead. And Aldo goes up and makes out with a girl in a tower. So there are all of these little scenes, and they are to give the background so that these things just don't happen out of the blue. That I don't enjoy, and I don't think books that simply focus on a particular family or a particular character are any good unless you have the background, and you have to give what would in film be deep focus too. And so when you have there are a couple of scenes that sketch out the character of Cindy McGee, who ends up being raped by Aldo. She dates she or not that Aldo. She's raped by Gino, and she's dating Aldo at the time the rape happens. And so there are characters. Gino has a girlfriend he goes out with. I forget the name with early in the book. We get her. We get
Deanna.
Deanna. Yeah. So we get her. We get some scenes with her. Just as we get some scenes later on with Angela Vincetti and the guy who owns the saloon. You know, obviously she's trading sexual favors for booze and maybe a little bit off on the rent or something. Um, all of those things are to give the milieu so that Gino Vincetti happens within a fugue. We have some scenes at the little deli where the kids go for candy to buy too. And I forget the name of the character I gave there, but again, based on a real character. We get some psychotic brothers who are unrelated to the mob who live down the street. There's a scene where Vito, for example, I believe it's in the Vincetti brothers, Vito forces a young kid to blow another kid because he picks on Gino or something. All of these are scenes that are done to give the milieu so that you have you go two or three or four characters out, and you have a whole neighborhood, you have a whole time, a whole place. Because Gino Vincetti, while there are certainly characters like him and whatnot, he is universal, but he's also particular to the mid 1970s and to lower working class New York City in the outer boroughs.